There are three kinds of people you meet in college: those who will forget you, those who will remember you, and those who will change you. I never expected Ethan Miller to be the third kind. My name is Julian Reyes, and I've spent my entire life perfecting the art of invisibility. Not literal invisibility, obviously, though God knows I wished for that superpower more times than I can count. No, I mean the social kind. The ability to exist in a space without actually being noticed. To fade into the background of other people as stories. In high school, this skill had been survival. In college, I hoped it would be freedom. Until room assignment day shattered that illusion completely. You've got to be fucking kidding me. Those were the first words I muttered when I pushed open the door to room 307 in Westridge Hall and saw the chaos that awaited me. Half the room looked like an athletic equipment store had exploded. Jerseys hanging from the closet door, a football perched on the desk, protein shake bottles lined up on the windowsill, posters of NFL stars and half-naked models plastered the wall above a rumpled bed, and the distinct scent of expensive cologne hung in the air like an invisible claim stake. I checked the paper in my hand again. Room 307. This was definitely it. I barely set down my suitcase when the door behind me swung open with enough force to rattle the hinges. And there he stood, all 6'2" of golden American glory. Ethan Miller, star quarterback, fraternity vice president, and apparently my roommate from hell. "Hey, you must be the new roomie," he announced, his voice carrying the easy confidence of someone who never had to question his place in the world. His blonde hair was still damp from what I assumed was post-practice shower, and his blue eyes, unnaturally bright, like something out of a genetic experiment gone too right, swept over me with unabashed curiosity. I offered a curt nod, already mentally drafting an email to housing services requesting a transfer. "Julian, right?" He extended a hand that could probably palm a basketball. "I am Ethan." "I know who you are," I replied, accepting his handshake with as little contact as socially acceptable. "Everyone knows who you are." He grinned at that, apparently taking it as a compliment rather than the neutral observation it was. "Well, we're going to be great friends, Julian," I corrected automatically, pushing my glasses up. "Just Julian." Ethan tilted his head, studying me with an intensity that made me want to check if I had something on my face. Then he laughed, a genuine sound that seemed to fill the small dorm room entirely. "Damn, man, you look like some kind of prince with those eyes. What are they? Like amber or something?" He stepped closer, invading my carefully maintained personal bubble. "You better be careful at parties. Someone might try to steal you away." I felt heat creeping up my neck despite my best efforts. "Fortunately, I have no interest in attending the kind of parties you are thinking of." "Challenge accepted," he replied with a wink that sent an unwelcome flutter through my stomach. And that is how it began. My carefully constructed wall of solitude crumbling against the battering ram of Ethan Miller. Ms. Personality, I'd come to college to reinvent myself, to quietly study literature and write film reviews for the campus paper. Instead, I found myself sharing 20 square meters with the human equivalent of a golden retriever, friendly, energetic, and completely oblivious to the concept of personal space. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to Ethan soft snores from across the room, I made a solemn promise to myself. I would not become one of those tragic gay boys who falls for the straight jock. I would not let my guard down. I would not give him or anyone the power to make me feel like an outsider again. If only promises were as easy to keep as they are to make. The first week passed in a blur of syllabi, literary theory discussions, and dodging Ethan's persistent attempts to drag me into his social orbit. I joined the Literary Society, secured a small column in the campus newspaper reviewing indie films, and established a routine that kept me out of our room as much as possible. When we did cross paths, I maintained a polite but distant demeanor, responding to his easy banter with one-word answers and arched eyebrows. But Ethan Miller, as I was quickly learning, didn't do distant. He was the type of person who collected people, like some collected stamps or coins, with enthusiasm and purpose. And for whatever reason, he had decided I was a particularly valuable addition to his collection. "You are coming to the party tonight," he announced on Friday evening, tossing his gym bag onto his bed and stretching his arms above his head. The motion caused his shirt to ride up, revealing a strip of tanned skin and the defined muscles beneath. I pointedly looked away. "No, I am not," I replied, not bothering to look up from my copy of Joan Didion essays. "Come on, Julian. It is the first Sigma party of the year. Everyone who matters will be there." "Then I definitely don't need to be there." I turned a page with deliberate slowness. Ethan flopped down at the foot of my bed, causing my carefully arranged pillows to tumble. I glared at him over the rim of my glasses. "What are you so afraid of?" he asked, his voice suddenly serious. The question caught me off guard. I wasn't afraid. I was cautious. There is a difference. High school had taught me that lesson the hard way. "I am not afraid," I said finally. "I just don't see the appeal in watching a bunch of drunk frat boys doing keg stands while listening to terrible music." Ethan grinned, knowing he struck a nerve. "How would you know if you've never been?" I opened my mouth to deliver a scathing retort, but he cut me off. 2 hours. Give it 2 hours. If you hate it, I'll personally escort you back to your beloved books and never bother you again. The promise of him never bothering me again was tempting, even if I knew it was a lie. But there was something else in his expression, a genuine desire for my company that I could quite understand. Why did he care if I came to his stupid party? "Fine," I sighed, closing my book. 2 hours, not a minute more. His face lit up like I just agreed to donate a kidney. "You won, regret it, Prince, I promise." I already did. The fraternity house loomed at the end of Greek Row like a monument to privilege and poor decision. Making music pulsed from within, so loud I could feel the bass vibrating through the sidewalk. Red Solo cups littered the front lawn, and students in various stages of inebriation clustered on the porch, laughing too loudly at jokes that probably weren't funny. "Welcome to Sigma Chi," Ethan said proudly, throwing an arm around my shoulders. "Best brotherhood on campus." I shrugged out from under his touch. "Looks like a health code violation waiting to happen." He laughed and steered me toward the entrance. "Keep that sharp tongue in check tonight. Prince, not everyone appreciates sarcasm like I do." Inside was chaos, bodies pressed together in the dimly lit space, moving to the rhythm of some generic pop song. The air was thick with the smell of beer, sweat, and perfume. I immediately regretted my decision to come, but Ethan's hand on the small of my back propelled me forward, deeper into the throng. Ethan, my man, a muscular guy with a buzz cut, emerged from the crowd, high-fiving my roommate. "Thought you'd never show." "Had to convince my roommate to experience the Sigma lifestyle," Ethan replied, nudging me forward. Julian, this is Tyler. Our social chair, Tyler. Julian. Tyler gave me a once over, his expression shifting from friendly to something slightly more calculating. The film critic, right? Ethan has mentioned you. I raised an eyebrow at Ethan, who suddenly seemed very interested in the ceiling. Has he? Said you were too smart for your own good? Tyler laughed, passing us both red cups filled with amber liquid. Drink up. It'll help with that. The beer was terrible, watery and lukewarm. But I sipped it anyway, needing something to do with my hands. Ethan guided me through the house, introducing me to a blur of fraternity brothers and their girlfriends. Everyone seemed to know him, to want a piece of his attention, and yet, curiously, he never left my side. You don't two need to babysit me, I said after the fifth introduction. Go mingle with your people. I'll find a corner to hide in until my 2 hours are up. These are my people, he corrected, then added with a grin, and now you are one of them too. I highly doubt that. Why? Because you read books and they throw footballs. News flash, Julian. People contain multitudes. He tapped his temple. I read sometimes too, you know. I couldn't help but smile at that. Comic books, Dante Count, Miller. Ouch, he clutched his chest dramatically. And here I was about to refill your drink like a gentleman. Against my better judgment, I held out my cup. If I am going to survive this night, I'll need all the help I can get. 3 drinks later, the party had begun to take on a dreamlike quality. The music seemed to flow through me rather than around me, and the press of bodies no longer felt suffocating. I found myself actually enjoying a conversation with one of Ethan's teammates about film noir. Apparently he was taking a cinema studies elective when Ethan appeared at my side with shots to new friendships. He toasted, his blue eyes dancing with mischief. I should have said no. I'd already exceeded my usual limit of exactly 0 alcoholic beverages. But there was something infectious about his enthusiasm, about the way he looked at me like I was someone worth knowing. To 2 hours, I countered, clinking my glass against his before downing the shot. The liquor burned a path down my throat, warming me from the inside out. I coughed, eyes watering, and Ethan laughed, his hand coming to rest on my shoulder. Easy there, lightweight. I am fine, I insisted, though the room had begun to spin slightly. What time is it? Ethan checked his phone. Almost midnight. Midnight? I blinked, confused. But that means we've been here for 3 hours, he finished, looking smugly pleased with himself. And you haven't tried to escape once. I should have been annoyed. He de-tricked me, after all, but instead, I found myself laughing. A genuine, unguarded sound that seemed to surprise us both. You are trouble, Ethan Miller. His grin widened. You have no idea. The rest of the night blurred together in a haze of laughter, music, and Ethan's constant presence at my side. At some point, someone suggested a drinking game, and despite my protests, I was dragged into a circle of players. The rules were simple, never have I ever. With the loser drinking, I was confident in my chances. My sheltered life meant I done very little worth confessing. Never have I ever, a girl with pink, streaked hair pondered, kissed someone of the same gender. My heart stopped. I hesitated, the cup halfway to my lips, then set it down without drinking. It wasn't technically a lie. I never actually kissed another man, though not for lack of desire. But the moment of hesitation had caught Ethan's attention. His eyes narrowed slightly, studying me with an intensity that made my skin flush. The game continued, but I was no longer present. My thoughts raced, panic building in my chest. Had he noticed? Would he connect the dots? The room suddenly felt too hot, too crowded. I needed air. I need to go, I mumbled, standing abruptly. The room tilted, and I realized I was drunker than I thought. Ethan was on his feet immediately, one hand steadying me. You okay? Just tired and drunk. I should go back to the dorm. I'll walk you. You don't have to. I want to, he insisted, already guiding me toward the door. Can T have my roommate getting lost or mugged? What kind of host would that make me? Outside, the night air was cool against my flushed skin. We walked in silence for a while, the sounds of the party fading behind us. The campus was beautiful at night, streetlights casting golden pools on the empty walkways. Ethan walked close beside me, occasionally reaching out to steady me when I stumbled. So, he said finally, did you have a terrible time? I considered lying, but the alcohol had loosened my tongue. It wasn't terrible. He bumped his shoulder against mine playfully. High praise from Julian Reyes. I am honored. Dawn, let it go to your head. It is big enough already. He laughed, the sound echoing in the quiet night. You know, when they told me I was getting a new roommate, I was pissed. Thought this stick me with some boring nerd. I am a boring nerd. Nah, he shook his head. You are interesting, different. You don't care what people think. If only he knew how much I cared, how carefully I monitored every word, every action. But I didn't correct him. It was nice, for once, to be seen as confident rather than cautious. We reached our dorm building, and Ethan held the door open with exaggerated chivalry. After you, Your Highness. I rolled my eyes but passed through, swaying slightly. The elevator was out of order. Again, so we took the stairs, climbing slowly to the 3rd floor. By the time we reached our room, my head was spinning, and all I wanted was to collapse into bed. Ethan unlocked the door and flipped on the light. I winced at the sudden brightness, kicking off my shoes and falling face first onto my bed without bothering to change. You are going to regret sleeping in those clothes, Ethan commented, sounding amused. Don't care, I mumbled into my pillow. Too tired. I heard him moving around the room, the sound of the sink running in our shared bathroom, then footsteps approaching my bed. Sit up, he ordered. Drink this. I groaned, but complied, accepting the glass of water he held out. Thanks, Ken. Have you hung over tomorrow? We got plans. We do. Yep. Brunch at the dining hall. Then the Film Society is showing some pretentious foreign movie I thought you might like. I stared at him, confused by this thoughtfulness. Why are you being nice to me? Ethan shrugged, looking almost embarrassed. Maybe I like you, Reyes. Ever think of that? Before I could process what that meant, he turned away, stripping off his shirt as he headed to his side of the room. I caught a glimpse of his broad back, the defined muscles shifting under tanned skin, and quickly looked away, heat creeping up my neck that had nothing to do with alcohol. I finished the water and lay back down, my thoughts a jumbled mess. The room spun gently around me, and I closed my eyes, hoping to quiet the chaos in my mind. Just as I was drifting off, I felt my bed dip under additional weight. My eyes flew open to find Ethan crawling in beside me, still shirtless, wearing only a pair of basketball shorts. What are you doing? I asked, my voice embarrassingly high. Heater. Broken on my side, he mumbled, already sliding under my covers. And you are like a human furnace. Before I could protest, He had wrapped an arm around my waist, pulling me against his chest. He was warm and solid, his breath tickling the back of my neck. "Ethan," I said, trying to sound stern despite the way my heart was racing. "Get out of my bed." So comfortable, though," he murmured, his voice thick with sleepiness. "Just for tonight, Jules. You are way better than the radiator." I should have pushed him away, should have insisted he return to his own bed. But the alcohol had dulled my defenses, and the truth was, it felt good to be held, even if it meant nothing to him. "Fine," I said coldly, trying to salvage some dignity. "But if you are still here in the morning, I am filing for a room change." "Deal," he agreed, tightening his arm around me. "Night, Prince." I lay awake long after his breathing had evened out into sleep, hyper-aware of every point of contact between us. His chest against my back, his arm heavy across my waist, our legs tangled together. It was torture and heaven all at once. This could happen again. I wouldn't let it happen again. In the morning, I establish clear boundaries, remind him and myself that we were just roommates, nothing more. But for now, just for tonight, I allowed myself to enjoy the closeness, to pretend that it meant something, that I meant something. To him, October arrived with a burst of autumn colors and a sudden drop in temperature. The campus transformed, trees blazing with reds and golds, fallen leaves crunching underfoot, and with October came the inevitable flood of Halloween preparations. The morning after the party, I'd woken alone in my bed, Ethan already gone to early practice. We'd never spoken about that night, about him crawling into my bed, holding me close. It became one of those things that hung in the air between us, acknowledged but unaddressed. In the weeks that followed, we settled into a strange sort of friendship. Ethan still dragged me to social events, though he stopped calling them mandatory. I still pretended to be annoyed, though we both knew I'd go anyway. He'd taken to sitting beside me in the dining hall, stealing fries from my plate and filling the silence with stories about his teammates. And I'd found myself actually looking forward to returning to our room at the end of the day, to his easy smile and ridiculous jokes. It was dangerous, this comfort. But seemed to stop myself from falling into it. "Halloween party at Sigma," Ethan announced, bursting into our room one afternoon. Biggest event of the fall semester. I didn't look up from my laptop, where I was working on a review of a particularly pretentious art house film. "Good for you." "Good for us," he corrected, flopping down on my bed uninvited, a habit I'd given up trying to break him of. "The Brotherhood is going all out this year. Haunted house in the basement. Costume contest, the works. Sounds terrifying. And not in the way you intend." Ethan poked my side, knowing I was ticklish there. Another discovery I regretted him making. "Come on, it'll be fun. Plus, we need to coordinate costumes." That got my attention. "We absolutely do not need to coordinate costumes. But we could be so good, Holmes and Watson, Batman and Robin, Mario and Luigi." I finally looked up, fixing him with my best unimpressed stare. "Are you seriously suggesting couple costumes right now?" Something flickered across his face, too quick to identify, before his usual grin returned. "Roommate costumes? Totally different thing, Ethan." "Fine, no coordinating," he conceded, hands raised in surrender. "But you are still coming." I sighed, knowing resistance was futile. "Only if I get to choose my own costume and leave whenever I want." "Deal." He held out his hand to shake on it, and I reluctantly took it, ignoring the way my pulse jumped at the contact. "This is going to be epic, Jules. Trust me." It is Julian, I corrected automatically, though we both knew I'd long since given up that battle. The night of the party arrived with appropriate atmospheric conditions. A light fog had settled over campus, and a nearly full moon peeked through clouds, scudding across the sky. I opted for a minimalist costume, a white button, down with fake blood splatter, and a name tag reading Dorian Gray. Literary references would be lost on most of the partygoers, but at least it required minimal effort. Ethan, predictably, had gone all out. He'd chosen a Greek warrior costume, complete with leather chest piece, arm cuffs, and a short tunic that displayed far too much of his muscular legs. A plastic sword hung at his hip, and he even added gold glitter to his hair, which should have looked ridiculous, but somehow didn't. Achilles? I guessed when he emerged from the bathroom. He grinned, striking a heroic pose. How do you know? Lucky guess, I replied dryly, trying not to stare at the expanse of tan skin on display. Though historically accurate, his costume would have been much simpler. Of course you know that, he said, rolling his eyes fondly. What are you supposed to be? A waiter who had an accident with the red wine. I pointed to my name tag. Dorian Gray. Ethan, S. brow furrowed in confusion. From the picture of Dorian Gray, Oscar Wilde? When his expression remained blank, I sighed. The man who stays young while his portrait ages and reflects his corruption. Right, he nodded, clearly having no idea what I was talking about. Very scary. It is a commentary on vanity and moral decay, not a ghost story. Even scarier, he grabbed his keys from the desk, ready to go. The fraternity house had been transformed for the occasion. Jack, lanterns lined the walkway, their carved faces flickering in the darkness. Fake cobwebs draped the porch, and someone had set up a fog machine that sent wisps of white mist curling around our ankles as we approached. Inside, the usual party chaos had taken on a macabre edge. Skeletons hung from the ceiling. Black lights cast an eerie glow over the dance floor, and the drinks were being served in plastic skull cups. Ethan was immediately swallowed by the crowd, hands clapping his back, voices calling his name. I hovered at the periphery, accepting a drink from someone dressed as a zombie nurse. I almost resigned myself to another night of awkward small talk when Ethan reappeared at my side, his face flushed with excitement. They've finished the haunted house in the basement, he said, practically bouncing on his feet. First group is going in now. We should get in line. I raised an eyebrow. A haunted house created by drunk fraternity brothers. I think I'll pass. Come on, he wheedled, grabbing my wrist. Tyler and Marcus from the film club put it together. They used actual cinematic techniques or whatever. It is supposed to be legitimately scary. That caught my interest. Marcus was in the literary society with me, and he did have an eye for atmospheric detail. Still, I hesitated. I don't really do haunted houses. Ethan, expression softened, scared. No, I lied. I just find them predictable and juvenile. Then you have nothing to worry about, he reasoned, tugging me toward the basement stairs. If it is as lame as you think, you can spend the rest of the night saying, I told you so. Put that way, it was hard to refuse. Fine, but if someone jumps out at me with a chainsaw, I am leaving. The line for the haunted house stretched up the basement stairs and into the hallway above. We joined the end, Ethan immediately striking up a conversation with the people in front of us. A couple dressed as zombified versions of our university's president and dean. I half listened, more interested in observing the party around us. That is when I spotted Marcus emerging from a side room with a flashlight in hand. He caught my eye and grinned, changing direction to join us. Julian, didn't he expect to see you here? He said, giving me a knowing look. Marcus was perhaps the closest thing I had to a friend outside of Ethan. We shared a love of obscure literature and a tendency toward sarcastic commentary. I was dragged against my will, I replied, nodding toward Ethan, who was still deep in conversation with the zombie administrators. Marcus smirked. I see. And how is the roommate situation working out? There was something in his tone that made me wary. Fine. Why? He shrugged, but his eyes were shrewd. No reason, just noticed you two have been spending a lot of time together lately. He is persistent and loud and everywhere, I said defensively. It is easier to give in than fight him. Uh-huh. Marcus didn't. He looked convinced. Well, you are in for a treat with the haunted house. I designed the middle section myself. Lots of psychological horror, minimal jump scares. Sounds almost tolerable. High praise from you, he laughed. Oh, and fair warning. The last section gets pretty intense. Strobe lights, confined spaces, the works. Great, I muttered, already regretting my decision. Marcus patted my shoulder sympathetically. You all survive. And hey, if you get scared, I am sure your roommate will protect you. He waggled his eyebrows suggestively. I will eviscerate you with a plastic fork. Save that energy for the demons in the basement, he replied cheerfully, before disappearing back into the crowd. By the time we reached the entrance to the haunted house, my palms were sweating despite my affected nonchalance. A guy in a hockey mask was allowing groups of 4 to enter every few minutes. When our turn came, we were paired with 2 girls dressed as cats, original, who giggled nervously as the door closed behind us, plunging us into near. Total darkness. Ladies first, Ethan said gallantly, but the girls pushed him forward instead. The big, strong warrior should lead the way, one of them insisted, batting her eyelashes in a way that made me want to roll my eyes. Ethan chuckled, but obliged, stepping forward into the dimly lit corridor. I followed close behind, with the cat girls bringing up the rear. The basement had been divided into a maze, black fabric hanging from the ceiling to create narrow passageways. Eerie music played softly, punctuated by occasional screams from somewhere ahead of us. The first section was standard haunted house fare. Gory scenes, tableaus, hands reaching out from hidden panels, recorded whispers that seemed to follow us. Ethan navigated with confident steps, occasionally glancing back to make sure I was still there. The cat girls clung to each other, shrieking at every new scare. Then we entered Marcus' section, and the atmosphere shifted. The path widened into a series of rooms, each more disturbing than the last. One contained dozens of mirrors, fragmenting our reflections into grotesque versions of ourselves. Another featured a long dining table set for a feast, with mannequins seated around it, their faces replaced with photographs of our own, taken from our university IDs and distorted into expressions of horror. Okay, that is actually creepy, I admitted, staring at my own face, screaming silently from a mannequin. Body. Ethan nodded, his usual bravado temporarily subdued. Marcus has issues. We moved quickly through the remaining rooms, the psychological horror giving way to more visceral scares. As we entered the final section, the corridor narrowed again, forcing us to walk single file. Strobe lights flashed, disorienting and sharp, making the shadows leap and dance around us. The temperature dropped noticeably. Someone had set up industrial fans to create an unnatural chill. Who fears ghosts? Not me, Ethan declared loudly, but I could hear the slight tremor in his voice. A figure lunged from the darkness, face contorted in a rubber mask of agony. Ethan yelped, a sound I never heard from him before, and instinctively grabbed my hand. I should have pulled away, should have teased him for his fear. Instead, I found my fingers tightening around his, our palms pressed together. The cat girls had fallen behind, their screams growing distant as they moved more slowly through the maze. It was just Ethan and me now, navigating the nightmare together. The strobe lights cast everything in fractured images. Ethan as profile, his jaw tight with tension, our joined hands, his knuckles white, the path ahead, seemingly endless in the disorienting light. Another figure leapt out, this one wielding a fake chainsaw that nonetheless roared convincingly. Ethan, as grip tightened, and he pulled me closer, our shoulders bumping. In the strobing darkness, he laced our fingers together properly, his thumb brushing over my knuckles. "Don't let go," he said, his voice low and close to my ear. Something in his tone made me look up at him, but in the fractured light, I couldn't read his expression. Was he genuinely scared? Or was this another of his casual invasions of my personal space? Meaningless to him, but devastating to me. Before I could decide, the final scare of the maze struck. A trapdoor opening beneath our feet. It was only a drop of a few inches onto cushioned mats, but in the darkness and confusion, it felt like falling into an abyss. We tumbled together, Ethan's arms wrapping around me protectively as we landed in a tangled heap. For a moment, we lay there, breath coming fast, bodies pressed together. I was acutely aware of every point of contact. His chest against mine, our legs intertwined. His face mere inches from my own. If I turned my head slightly, our lips would almost touch. "You okay?" he asked, his voice rough. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. He didn't move immediately, his eyes searching my face for something I could name. Then the spell broke as the cat girls tumbled through the same trapdoor, landing beside us with theatrical screams. Ethan rolled away, pulling me to my feet with our still, joined hands. We exited through a door marked "Escape" and emerged into the backyard of the fraternity house, where other survivors of the haunted house were gathering, laughing about their scares. Only then did Ethan release my hand, and I felt the loss like a physical ache. "That was," he started, then shook his head, a strange expression on his face. "Intense," I finished for him. "Yeah," he ran a hand through his glitter, dusted hair, leaving it sticking up at odd angles. "You want a drink?" "I need a drink." I nodded, and we made our way back into the main party, neither of us mentioning what had happened in the darkness of the maze. But something had shifted between us, subtle but undeniable. A boundary crossed, a possibility acknowledged. And as much as I tried to tell myself it meant nothing, that it was just adrenaline and proximity and the strange magic of Halloween, I couldn't quite convince my racing heart to believe it. November brought midterms, early darkness, and the first real chill of winter. Campus settled into the mid-semester rhythm of coffee, fueled study sessions, and mounting academic pressure. The Halloween party faded into memory, though Ethan, as hand in mine, his whispered, "Don't let go," in the darkness, lingered in my thoughts during quiet moments. We returned to our usual dynamic, Ethan boisterous and boundary, crossing, me pretending to be annoyed while secretly enjoying his attention. But there were new moments now, lingering glances, casual touches that felt less casual, a tension in the air when we were alone in our room. Neither of us acknowledged it, skating around the edges of something we could, tea, or would tea. Name. The Literary Society is hosting a charity fundraiser next weekend. I mentioned one evening as we sat on our respective beds, me reading, Ethan ostensibly studying plays for his football game, but actually playing a game on his phone. Open mic night at the campus coffee house. Yeah? He glanced up, interested. You performing? I snorted. Hardly. I am helping organize, but there will be poetry readings, musical performances, that sort of thing. Sounds painfully intellectual, he teased. I am in. I blinked in surprise. You want to come to a literary event? I want to see what you are passionate about, he said with a shrug, as if this wasn't a monumental statement. Plus, I bet you are secretly great at running these things, all bossy and precise. I am not bossy, I protested. You coded our shared bathroom schedule, Jules. That is just good organizational practice. He grinned, the smile that always made something flutter in my chest. Like I said, bossy, but in a hot way. I threw my pencil at him, which he caught easily, laughing. You are impossible. Yet you keep me around. He tossed the pencil back. So, this open mic thing. Can anyone sign up? Technically, yes, I said warily. Why? No reason. His innocent expression fooled no one. Just curious. I narrowed my eyes. Ethan Miller, if you sign up to do something embarrassing, would I do that to you? He asked, placing a hand over his heart in mock offense. Yes, without hesitation. He laughed again, the sound warm and genuine. Fair point. But I promised to behave. Scout. Honor. He held up 3 fingers in what I was pretty sure was not the actual scout salute. Were you even a scout? For about 2 weeks. Got kicked out for putting a frog in the troop leader. Sleeping bag. I rolled my eyes, but could suppress a smile. Why am I not surprised? The night of the fundraiser arrived, and I was too busy with last-minute preparations to worry about what Ethan might be planning. The campus coffee house had been transformed with fairy lights and small round tables, creating an intimate atmosphere. A small stage had been set up at one end, with a microphone and stool for performers. I was checking the sign, up sheet, one last time when Marcus appeared at my elbow. Your roommate just arrived, he said, nodding toward the entrance. With half the football team and what looks like the entire cheerleading squad. I turned to see Ethan leading a group of his friends through the door. He spotted me immediately, his face lighting up as he waved enthusiastically. I offered a more subdued wave in return, trying to ignore the knowing look Marcus was giving me. Shut up, I muttered. I didn't say anything, he replied innocently. You were thinking it loudly. Marcus chuckled. He has got it bad, you know. I've never seen him like this. Like what? I asked, suddenly interested despite myself, all devoted. Marcus waved a hand vaguely. Following you around like a puppy, showing up at literary events. It is almost sweet in a Jock discovers feelings kind of way. He is just being friendly, I insisted, though a small, hopeful part of me wanted to believe otherwise. That is who he is, Mr. Congeniality. Marcus clearly did, believe me. Well, Mr. Congeniality signed up for a slot tonight. Did you know that? I froze. He came by earlier and put his name on the list. Wouldn't he say what he is planning? Before I could interrogate Marcus further, Ethan reached us, his smile wide and genuine. Julian, this place looks amazing. He gestured at the transformed coffee house. You did all this? The committee did, I corrected, but felt a flush of pride at his praise. Thanks for coming and for bringing everyone. I nodded at the group of athletes who had taken over several tables near the front. They were curious about your secret intellectual life, he said with a wink. Plus, I might have mentioned there would be cute literary types to meet. Of course you did, I sighed, but without real annoyance. Just try to make sure they don't disrupt the performances. Some of these people are nervous enough without football players heckling them. I'll be perfect gentlemen and ladies, he promised, then lowered his voice, leaning in slightly. You look good tonight, by the way. I glanced down at my outfit, black jeans and a gray sweater, hardly worth commenting on. But before I could respond, Boat moved away to join his friends, leaving me flustered and confused. Like I said, Marcus murmured, beside me. Bad. The event began smoothly enough. Marcus, as president of the Literary Society, welcomed everyone and explained the charitable cause we were supporting, a literacy program for underserved schools in the area. The first few performers were society members, reading original poetry or excerpts from favorite works. The audience was respectful, even Ethan's athlete friends, who listened with expressions of varying comprehension. I was managing the performance order backstage when Claire Benson approached the sign. Up table, the head cheerleader was stunning in a casual way that probably took hours to achieve. Flowing blonde hair, perfect makeup that looked natural, a stylish but understated outfit that highlighted her athletic figure. Hi, she said, her voice friendly, but with an undercurrent I could quite identify. You are Julian, right? Ethan's roommate? I nodded, immediately on guard. Claire and Ethan ran in the same social circles, and rumors had circulated for months that she was interested in him. The thought twisted something in my stomach, though I had no right to feel possessive. I wanted to sign up for the next open slot, she continued, flashing a perfect smile. If that is okay? Of course, I replied politely, adding her name to the list. What will you be performing? It is a surprise, she said, with a wink that reminded me uncomfortably of Ethan. But don't worry, I'll be tasteful. I forced a smile. Great, I'll be up after the current performer. She thanked me and walked away, her presence leaving me with an inexplicable sense of dread. When the current reader finished his Sylvia Plath excerpt, I signaled to Marcus, who introduced Claire to enthusiastic applause from the athletes section. Claire took the stage with natural confidence, adjusting the microphone with practiced ease. Thank you all for coming tonight to support such a wonderful cause, she began, her voice warm and engaging. I wasn't planning to perform, but I've been inspired by the courage of everyone sharing their talents. She paused, scanning the audience until her eyes landed on our table, where Ethan sat with a few of his teammates. For my contribution, I'd like to play a little game. It is called Truth or Kiss, a variation on an old favorite. A murmur ran through the crowd, and I exchanged a concerned glance with Marcus. This wasn't the type of performance we anticipated, but it was too late to intervene without causing a scene. The rules are simple, Claire continued, a mischievous glint in her eye. I'll choose someone from the audience. They can either answer a personal question truthfully or decline and receive a kiss from me instead. All in good fun, of course, and all for charity. Each round, I'll pass the donation basket. The crowd cheered, particularly the athletes section. I saw several of Ethan's teammates nudging him, clearly hoping he'd be chosen. Ethan himself looked amused, but slightly wary. his eyes darting to where I stood at the side of the room. Claire made a show of scanning the audience, though it was clear she planned this in advance. For our first participant, I choose Julian Reyes. My heart stopped. All eyes turned to me, and I felt my face heating with unwanted attention. This wasn't T happening. Claire could T possibly want to kiss me. This had to be about Ethan, about provoking some reaction from him. Come on up, Julian, Claire called, gesturing to the stage. Don't T be shy. Marcus gave me a sympathetic look. You don't have to. It is fine, I muttered, straightening my shoulders. I would give her the satisfaction of seeing me flustered. I'll handle it. I made my way to the stage, hyper-aware of Ethan's intense gaze following my every move. Up close, Claire's smile held a predatory edge that confirmed my suspicions. This was about him, not me. So, Julian, she said, once ID joined her on stage, her voice carrying easily through the microphone. Truth or kiss? Will you answer a personal question honestly, or would you prefer a kiss? The audience called out suggestions, most favoring the kiss option. I noticed Ethan had gone very still, his usual easy smile nowhere to be seen. Truth, I said firmly. I had no intention of kissing Claire Benson, especially not as part of whatever game she was playing with Ethan. Interesting choice, she said, looking almost disappointed. All right then, my question is this. What is the real nature of your relationship with Ethan Miller? The room went quiet, all eyes darting between me, Claire, and Ethan. My mouth went dry. What was I supposed to say? That we were roommates who might be developing feelings for each other, but were both too scared to acknowledge it. That I lay awake at night thinking about his smile, his laugh, the way he held my hand in the haunted house. We roommates, I said finally, my voice steadier than I felt. And friends, that is all. Claire studied me, her eyes narrowed slightly. Are you sure that is the whole truth? You spend an awful lot of time together for just roommates. You ask one question, I replied coldly. I answered it. Her smile tightened. Fair enough, but since you didn't, give us a very exciting truth. How about that kiss anyway? The audience seems to want it. She gestured to the crowd, where several people were indeed calling for her to kiss me. Before I could refuse, Claire stepped forward, placing her hand on my arm and leaning in toward my cheek. I froze, uncomfortable, but unwilling to make a scene. Not happening, Ethan's voice cut through the chatter, and suddenly he was on stage beside us, his hand gently, but firmly separating Claire's from my arm. The audience erupted in excited whispers and a few catcalls. Ethan, Claire's surprise seemed genuine. What are you doing? Stopping whatever this is, he said, his voice low but intense. This is cool, Claire. It is just a game, she protested, though her eyes were calculating. For charity, everyone's having fun. Julian isn't he? Ethan replied, his hand still on my arm, warm and reassuring. And neither am I. The tension in the room was palpable. Claire glanced between us, her expression shifting from surprise to understanding, and finally, to something that looked almost like hurt. I see, she said quietly, then turned to the audience with a forced smile. Well, folks, it seems Ethan has strong opinions about who gets to kiss Julian. Interesting. Dawn, do you think? The crowd responded with whistles and cheers, misinterpreting the moment as some kind of romantic triangle drama. Which, I supposed, it kind of was. I think we should move on to the next performer, I suggested, desperate to end the spectacle. Marcus, bless him, immediately took the microphone, thanking Claire for her unique contribution and announcing the next reader. Ethan, his hand slid down to grasp mine, and he tugged me gently off the stage and through the crowd toward the exit. Ethan, I hissed once we were in the hallway outside the coffee house. What the hell was that? He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture he'd come to recognize as a sign of agitation. I don't to know. I saw her about to kiss you, and I just reacted. It was just a stupid game, I said. Though I was secretly relieved he intervened. And it was just going to be on the cheek. Still, he looked away, jaw tense. She had no right to put you on the spot like that. Since when do you care about Claire Benson's behavior? I asked, studying his face carefully. Aren't you two friends, or more? He grimaced. We hooked up once, freshman year. It didn't mean anything. She has been interested ever since. But I made it clear, I don't feel that way about her. And she thinks it is because of me, I realized aloud. That is what this was about. She was trying to prove something. Ethan didn't deny it, which was an answer in itself. We stood in silence for a moment, the muffled sounds of the event continuing inside. I should go back, I said finally. I am supposed to be helping run things. Yeah, he nodded, but made no move to return. I think I am going to head back to the dorm. Tell the guys I wasn't feeling well or something. Ethan, it is fine. Jules. He forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I'll see you later, okay? Before I could respond, he was walking away. His shoulders hunched against the cold November air. I watched him go, feeling like we were balancing on the edge of something important. Something that could either bring us closer or push us irreparably apart. With a sigh, I returned to the coffee house, where Marcus immediately cornered me. What the hell was that? He demanded in a whisper. The whole room is buzzing. Did Ethan just stake his claim on you? In front of everyone? No, I replied automatically, though my mind replayed the way he said, not happening, with such finality. He was just being protective as a friend. Marcus looked skeptical. Friends don't look at each other the way he looks at you, Julian. And they definitely don't. To dramatically prevent other people from kissing their friends. It is complicated, I muttered, unwilling to examine my own feelings too closely, let alone Ethan's. Only because you are both making it complicated, Marcus replied with exasperation. But fine, I'll drop it, for now. The rest of the event passed in a blur. I went through the motions of my responsibilities, but my mind was back in that moment on stage, Ethan's hand warm on my arm as he pulled Claire away. What did it mean? Was it just friendship, protectiveness toward a roommate, or was it something more? The jealousy of a man who wanted more than friendship, but did he know how to ask for it? And more importantly, what did I want it to mean? I didn't have answers. Only questions that followed me like shadows as I helped clean up after the event, said goodnight to my fellow literary society members, and finally made the long walk back to my dorm room, back to Ethan, and whatever waited between us there. The dorm room was dark when I returned, the only light coming from Ethan's phone screen as he lay on his bed, still fully dressed. He didn't look up when I entered, though the sudden tension in his shoulders told me he was aware of my presence. I hung my coat carefully, buying time as I tried to decide how to approach the elephant in the room. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken words. How was the rest of the event? Ethan finally asked, his voice carefully neutral. Fine, I replied. equally careful. We raised more money than expected. Good, that is good. Another silence fell. I sat on my bed, facing him across the narrow space that separated us. A space that suddenly seemed both too small and impossibly vast. Are we going to talk about what happened? I asked finally. Ethan sighed and set his phone aside, sitting up to meet my gaze. In the dim light from the window, his features were shadowed, unreadable. What do you want me to say, Julian? I want you to explain why you acted like that, I said, frustration edging into my voice. Why you pulled Claire away like that, in front of everyone. He ran a hand through his hair, the gesture agitated. I told you, I didn't like how she was putting you on the spot. That is not the whole story, and you know it. What are you asking me? Exactly. There was a defensive note in his voice now. You want me to apologize for stopping her from kissing you, because I won T. I am not sorry. I want to understand why it bothered you so much, I pressed. She was going to kiss my cheek, Ethan, not exactly a scandal. But you reacted like what? He challenged when I trailed off. Like you were jealous, I thought, but couldn't say. Like you had some claim on me, I said instead. He looked away, his jaw tight. Maybe I didn't, to want to watch her use you to get to me. So, this was about your ego. I felt a stab of disappointment. Protecting your territory. No, his eyes snapped back to mine, fierce suddenly. It wasn't about that at all. It was about her trying to make a point using you. And I didn't like it. You are not a prop in someone else's game. Then, what am I to you, Ethan? The question escaped before I could stop it, hanging in the air between us. He stared at me, something vulnerable flickering across his face. You know what you are to me. No, I said quietly. I really don't. Ethan stood abruptly, pacing the small space between our beds. You are my roommate. My friend, you are. He broke off, running both hands through his hair now. Fuck, Julian. Don't, make me say it. Say what? My heart was pounding so hard. I was sure he could hear it. That I think about you all the time, he burst out, the words rushing together. That I look for excuses to touch you, to be near you. That I hated the idea of Claire kissing you because I want. He stopped, breathing hard, eyes wide as if he de-surprised himself. I stood slowly, afraid that any sudden movement might break whatever spell had allowed this confession. You want what, Ethan? He looked at me, really looked at me, his blue eyes dark with an emotion I was afraid to name. I want you, he said simply, and it scares the hell out of me. My breath caught. Why does it scare you? Because I've never wanted a guy before. He laughed, the sound slightly hysterical. Because I don't know what it means about me. Because I don't know if you could ever want me back. Take your pick, Ethan. I know you are gay, he continued, as if he could stop now that he started. I've known since that drinking game at the party. I saw how you hesitated, and it made so much sense why you keep everyone at a distance, why you were so resistant to being friends at first. I felt exposed, vulnerable in a way I hadn't allowed myself to be since high school. How did you know? I didn't, not for sure, not until now. His expression softened, but I hoped. Because if you weren't, then I was losing my mind for nothing. You are not losing your mind, I said quietly. He took a step toward me, then another until we were standing toe to toe. Then tell me I am not alone in this. Tell me you feel it too. I should have been careful. Should have asked about his confusion, his identity, whether this was just curiosity or something deeper. But standing there, looking up into his earnest face. All my careful defenses crumbled. "I feel it too," I whispered. "I have since the beginning, even when I tried not to." Relief washed over his features, followed quickly by determination. His hands came up to frame my face, gentle but insistent. "Julian," he said, my name sounding like a prayer on his lips. "Ethan," I answered, and it was both a question and permission. He didn't hesitate. His mouth found mine with surprising gentleness, a soft press of lips that sent electricity racing through my veins. I remained frozen for a heartbeat, too shocked to respond. Before my body caught up with reality, my hands moved to his waist, fisting in his shirt as I kissed him back with all the pent-up longing I'd been denying for months. The kiss deepened, Ethan's tongue tracing the seam of my lips in a silent request I immediately granted. He made a sound, half groan, half sigh, that vibrated through me. His hands slid from my face to my hair, fingers tangling in the strands as he angled my head to deepen the kiss further. We stumbled backward until my legs hit my bed, and then we were falling together, Ethan's weight pressing me into the mattress. His body was solid and warm above mine, his kisses growing more urgent, more demanding. I met his hunger with my own, months of suppressed desire breaking free, like a dam bursting. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rested his forehead against mine. "I've been wanting to do that for so long," he confessed, his voice rough. "Since when?" I asked, needing to know. "Since you walked into this room with your sarcastic mouth and those eyes that see right through me." He brushed his thumb across my cheekbone. "Since you saw the real me under all the bullshit and din-din to run away." I laughed softly, overwhelmed by his honesty. "And here I thought you were just an annoying jock who wouldn't leave me alone." "I am an annoying jock," he agreed with a grin. "But I am your annoying jock now, if you want me." Instead of answering, I pulled him down for another kiss, slower this time, savoring the feel of his mouth against mine. His hand slid under my sweater, warm against my skin, and I arched into the touch. "Julian," he murmured against my lips. "We should slow down." I pulled back slightly, searching his face. "You don't want this?" "God, I want this," he said with feeling. "I want you so much it hurts, but I am still figuring things out, and I don't want to rush into something we might regret." His consideration touched me deeply. For all his outward bravado, Ethan was being careful with me, with us, in a way I hadn't expected. "Okay," I agreed, though my body protested the decision. "I'll take it slow." He smiled, relief and desire mingling in his expression. "Can I still kiss you, though?" "I might kill you if you don't," I replied, only half joking. Ethan laughed and rolled to his side, keeping one arm draped across my waist. "I never thought I'd here," he said quietly, "with you like this." "Neither did I admitted. I was so determined not to fall for the straight jock roommate. It is such a cliché. Except I am not as straight as I thought," he said thoughtfully. "Or maybe it is just you. Maybe it has always been just you." The vulnerability in his voice made my heart clench. "Have you ever, with a guy before?" He shook his head. "Never even thought about it until you." Then, suddenly, it was all I could think about. "And that doesn't freak you out?" "Of course it does," he said with a wry smile. "But not as much as the thought of not doing this, not being with you, freaks me out." I studied his face in the dim light, searching for any sign of doubt or hesitation. What about your friends? The fraternity, your parents? His expression clouded slightly. I don't too know yet. I haven't thought that far ahead. For now, can it just be us? Just you and me figuring this out together? It wasn't the answer. I hoped for, but it was honest. And perhaps it was unfair to expect more from him so soon. This was new territory for both of us. Me with my walls and fears, him with his questioning identity. Just us, I agreed, trying to ignore the small voice that warned me about secret relationships and closeted partners. For now, Ethan, as smile returned, brilliant and relieved. Thank you, he said, pressing a kiss to my forehead, for understanding, for giving me a chance. We spent the rest of the night talking and kissing, learning each other in this new way. Ethan was as enthusiastic in his affection as he was in everything else, eager to discover what made me sigh, what made me smile. And I found myself opening up to him in ways I'd never allowed myself to with anyone before, sharing stories of high school isolation, of hiding who I was, of finding refuge in books and films when reality became too harsh. As the night deepened, we eventually drifted to sleep in my narrow bed, Ethan, his arms around me, his breath warm against my neck. And for the first time since arriving at college, I felt like I might have found someone to belong to. But as I hovered on the edge of sleep, the nagging worry returned. How long would Ethan be content with just us? How long before the outside world demanded answers? He wasn't ready to give. And when that moment came, would what we found tonight be strong enough to survive it? The weeks that followed were a strange dance of public distance and private intimacy. In the sanctuary of our dorm room, Ethan was affectionate and attentive, pulling me into his lap while I tried to study, stealing kisses between classes, falling asleep with his arms around me. But the moment we stepped outside, we reverted to the roles we established. Roommates, friends, nothing more. I told myself I understood. Coming out was a personal journey, and Ethan was still grappling with what our relationship meant for his identity. He, only ever dated girls before me. This was uncharted territory for him. Patience was the least I could offer. But each time he pulled his hand away when someone approached, each time he introduced me simply as my roommate Julian, a small crack appeared in my heart. Are you going to the game on Saturday? Marcus asked as we left our modernist literature seminar. It is the big rivalry match. Everyone's going. I shrugged noncommittally. Maybe. I have a lot of reading to catch up on. Marcus gave me a knowing look. Ethan will be disappointed if you are not there. I doubt I'll notice, I replied, trying to sound casual. I'll be focused on the game. Please, Marcus scoffed. The guy looks for you in the stands before every play. It is kind of adorable, actually. Heat crept up my neck. We readjust. Friends, yeah, I know, Marcus interrupted, rolling his eyes. That is what you keep saying. But friends don't look at each other the way you two do. I stopped walking, studying my friend's face. Is it that obvious, Marcus? As expression softened, only to someone paying attention, which, unfortunately for you, I am. It is complicated, I said after a moment. Isn't it always? He clapped a hand on my shoulder. Look, I don't need details. But if you ever want to talk about it, about him, I am here. No judgment. His sincere offer touched me. Thanks, Marcus. Any time. He started walking again. So, the game? I sighed, giving in. Fine, I'll be there. Good, he grinned, because I already got us seats in the front row. Saturday arrived cold and clear, perfect football weather. According to the enthusiastic announcer, his voice booming across the stadium, Marcus and I settled into our seats, huddled in scarves and coats against the November chill. The stands were packed, a sea of our university's blue and gold colors. The team ran onto the field to thunderous applause, and despite myself, my eyes immediately sought out Ethan. He was easy to spot, his confident stride and golden hair visible even beneath his helmet. As if sensing my gaze, he turned toward our section, scanning the crowd until his eyes found mine. Even from a distance, I could see his smile widen. "Told you," Marcus murmured beside me. I ignored him, but could suppress the warm feeling spreading through my chest. Ethan raised a hand in a small wave, and I returned the gesture, hoping my smile did betray how much that simple acknowledgement meant to me. The game was tense, the lead changing hands several times. I understood football only in the vaguest sense, but even I could tell that Ethan was playing exceptionally well. His passes precise, his strategy sound. Each successful play brought the crowd to its feet, and I found myself caught up in the collective excitement, despite my usual disdain for sports. When the final whistle blew, our team had won by 3 points, and the stadium erupted. Players threw their helmets in celebration, coaches embraced, and students poured onto the field. Before I could decide whether to join the crowd or wait for Ethan to find me later, Marcus was pulling me toward the stairs. "Come on," he urged. "Let us congratulate your boy. He is not my—" I started automatically, then stopped. What was Ethan to me, exactly? We hadn't put labels on what we were doing, hadn't discussed exclusivity or commitment, but the thought of him as my boy sent a pleasant thrill through me. We pushed through the crowd until we reached the edge of the field. Players were surrounded by friends and family, accepting congratulations and posing for photos. I spotted Ethan in the center of a group of admirers, his helmet off, hair damp with sweat, face flushed with victory and exertion. He looked beautiful. As if sensing my presence, he looked up, his eyes finding mine across the distance. His smile broadened, and he started to move in our direction, only to be intercepted by Claire Benson and several other cheerleaders. I watched as Claire threw her arms around his neck, pressing her body against his in a celebration that seemed excessive even for a rivalry win. Ethan's hands came up automatically to steady her, and though he gently disentangled himself after a moment, the sight sent a cold spike through my chest. "Dawn, read too much into it," Marcus said quietly beside me. "That is just Claire being Claire." "I know," I replied, though the reassurance did little to ease the jealousy curling in my stomach. Before Ethan could make his way to us, he was surrounded by teammates and then whisked away for post-game interviews and team meetings. Marcus and I waited for a while, but when it became clear he wouldn't be free anytime soon, we left. "There is a victory party at Sigma tonight," Marcus mentioned as we walked back toward the dorms. "You going?" "I don't know," I said, honestly. The thought of watching Ethan being fawned over by admirers all night, admirers he could acknowledge publicly in ways he couldn't acknowledge me, was unappealing. "I'll want you there," Marcus said, as if reading my thoughts. "Maybe," I conceded, "but sometimes what we want isn't what is best for us." Marcus studied me with concern. "Trouble in paradise," I sighed, debating how much to reveal. "Not exactly. It is just difficult navigating this thing between us when no one else knows about it." "Ah," Marcus nodded in understanding. "The closet, not a fun place to visit, and an even worse place to live." "He is still figuring things out," I said defensively. "I can push him to come out before he is ready." Of course not, Marcus agreed. But that doesn't mean it does. T hurt you when he pretends there is nothing between you. I did. T'd have a response to that. Marcus was right. It did hurt, especially in moments like today, watching Claire embrace Ethan in ways I could, at least not where others could see. Just think about the party, Marcus said as we reached my dorm building. If nothing else, I'll be there. We can huddle in a corner and make snarky comments about drunk frat boys. I smiled despite myself. Tempting. Text me if you decide to come, he called, as he continued toward his own dorm. I'll save you some of the good booze. Back in my room, I tried to focus on an essay for my film criticism class. But my thoughts kept drifting to Ethan, to the way he smiled when he saw me in the stands, to the gentle way he disentangled himself from Claire, to the secret moments we shared in this very room. I was still sitting at my desk, pretending to work, when the door burst open and Ethan entered, his face alight with post-victory euphoria. We won, he exclaimed unnecessarily, dropping his gym bag and crossing the room in 3 long strides. Before I could respond, he had pulled me from my chair and into a tight embrace. And you came to the game. I did, I confirmed, allowing myself to relax into his arms. You played well, at least. I think you did. I still don't really understand football. He laughed, the sound vibrating through his chest against mine. I'll teach you someday, but right now, I don't too want to talk about football. His lips found mine in a kiss that tasted of victory and desire. I responded eagerly, my earlier jealousy momentarily forgotten as his hands tangled in my hair, his body pressing mine against the desk. I wanted to do this on the field, he murmured against my mouth. When I saw you in the stands, I wanted everyone to know. The words sent a thrill through me, followed quickly by wariness. But you didn't, T. Ethan pulled back slightly, his expression sobering. I didn't, T. I stepped away from his embrace, needing distance to think clearly. There is a victory party tonight at Sigma. Are you going? Of course, he said, looking confused by the change of subject. The whole team will be there. It is tradition. He paused, studying my face. I want you to come with me. As your roommate? I asked, unable to keep the edge from my voice. Or as something else. Understanding dawned in his eyes. Jules, you know it is complicated. Is it? I moved to sit on my bed, putting more space between us. Or are we making it complicated? Ethan ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in the gesture. What do you want me to do? Make some grand announcement to the entire fraternity. I am still figuring this out myself. I am not asking for a grand announcement, I said quietly, but it has been weeks, Ethan, weeks of this secret. And today, watching Claire throw herself at you. That meant nothing, he interrupted. You know that. I do know that, I acknowledged, but she can hug you in public, and I can even stand too close to you without you tensing up. Guilt flashed across his face. I am trying, Julian. This is all new to me. I've never felt this way about anyone before, let alone another guy. It is a lot to process. I softened at the vulnerability in his voice. I know, and I am not trying to pressure you. I trailed off, unsure how to articulate the ache in my chest. Ethan moved to sit beside me, taking my hand in his. Tell me what you need from me. I looked down at our joined hands, at the contrast between his tan skin and my paler tone. I need to know that I am not just an experiment, that this, us, means something to you, something real. You are not an experiment, he said firmly, lifting my chin to meet his gaze. This is the most real thing I've ever felt. You are the most real thing in my life. Then, why can't anyone know? I asked, the question that had been haunting me for weeks, finally spoken aloud. Ethan sighed, his thumb tracing circles on the back of my hand. It is not about being ashamed of you or of us. It is about not being ready for the questions, for the way people will look at me differently, for how it might change everything. The team, the brotherhood, my family. I understood his fears. I faced similar ones when I came out, but hearing him list all the reasons to keep us hidden still stung. I can. Stay a secret forever, Ethan, I said softly. I've spent too much of my life hiding who I am. I know, he replied, his voice equally soft. And I am not asking for forever, just a little more time. I wanted to press further, to ask for a timeline, a plan, some concrete assurance that a little more time wouldn't he stretch indefinitely. But the earnest look in his eyes, the genuine fear and hope mingled there, stopped me. Okay, I said finally, more time. Relief washed over his features, and he leaned forward to press his forehead against mine. Thank you, he whispered, for understanding, for being patient with me. I closed my eyes, breathing in his familiar scent. Just dawn, to make me wait too long. He kissed me then, gentle and full of promise. I won, I swear. Later, as we got ready for the party, me reluctantly, Ethan with his usual enthusiasm. I wondered if I was being naive, if I was setting myself up for heartbreak by falling deeper into this relationship with its uncertain future. But watching Ethan move around our room, catching his secret smiles and tender glances, I could bring myself to regret the choice I made. For better or worse, Ethan Miller had become the center of my world. All I could do now was hope that when the time came for our private happiness to face the public light, it would be strong enough to withstand the glare. The victory party was already in full swing when we arrived at the Sigma house. Music pounded, lights flashed, and the scent of beer and sweat hung heavy in the air. Ethan was immediately swarmed by teammates and admirers, pulled into the heart of the celebration with shouts and backslaps. I hovered at the periphery, searching the crowd for Marcus or any other friendly face. Julian Marcus appeared at my elbow, a red cup in each hand. You came. Here, this is for you. I accepted the drink gratefully. Thanks. Is it as strong as it smells? Stronger, he replied with a grin. Tyler, special punch, approach with caution. I took a tentative sip and grimaced. This tastes like lighter fluid. That might be an ingredient. Marcus laughed. Come on, let's find somewhere to sit. I want to hear all about your mysterious disappearance after the game. We found a relatively quiet corner, and I deflected Marcus as good-natured prying with vague responses about having work to do. From our vantage point, I could see Ethan across the room, surrounded by his usual crowd. He was telling some story, gesturing animatedly, his audience captivated. Every few minutes, his eyes would scan the room until they found me, and a small, private smile would cross his face before he returned to his performance. He keeps looking for you, Marcus observed. Why don't you go join them? I shrugged, sipping my horrible drink. Not my scene. Since when has that stopped him from dragging you into it? Since we started sleeping together and he decided I had to be a secret, I thought but didn't say. He deserves to celebrate with his team. I am fine here. Marcus studied me with two perceptive eyes, something It's changed between you two. It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. Maybe. Want to talk about it? I considered the offer. Marcus was the closest thing I had to a confidant, and the weight of carrying this secret was becoming exhausting. Not here, I said finally. Maybe later, he nodded, respecting my reticence. Whenever you are ready. In the meantime, want to check out the beer pong tournament? I hear the chemistry majors have a strategy involving trajectory calculations. We spent the next hour wandering the party, observing the increasingly drunken antics of our fellow students with detached amusement. I kept one eye on Ethan, who seemed to be making a circuit of the house, stopping to chat with everyone, the perfect fraternity vice president. He did catch my eye occasionally, his smile softening in a way that made my heart skip before being pulled away to another group, another conversation. I was returning from the bathroom when I nearly collided with Claire Benson in the hallway. She was stunning in a blue dress that matched our school colors, her blonde hair loose around her shoulders. "Julian," she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "I was hoping to run into you. You were." I could keep the surprise from my voice. She stepped closer, forcing me to back up against the wall. I wanted to apologize for that little scene at the fundraiser. I was out of line. Her apology seemed sincere, though something in her expression made me wary. "It is fine, already forgotten." "That is generous of you." She tilted her head, studying me. "You know, I've been trying to figure it out." "Figure what out?" "What Ethan sees in you." She said it matter of factly, not as an insult, but as a genuine puzzle. Don't get me wrong. You are cute in that bookish way, but you are not his usual type. My pulse quickened. What exactly did she know? "I am not sure what you mean." Claire smiled, turned knowing. "Come on, Julian. I've known Ethan for 3 years. I know when he is interested in someone, and he is very interested in you." I kept my expression neutral, though my mind was racing. We roommates, friends. Is that what you tell yourself?" She laughed softly. "Must be difficult being in love with someone who is still playing straight for the rest of the world." The accuracy of her assessment hit like a physical blow. "I think they had too much to drink, Claire." "Probably," she agreed easily. "But I am not wrong, and I am not your enemy, believe it or not." Before I could respond, the hallway filled with a group of laughing students, pushing past us toward the makeshift dance floor in the living room. When they passed, Claire was still watching me, her expression softer than before. "He looks at you the way he never looked at me," she said, a hint of resignation in her voice. "For what it is worth, I think you are good for him when he is ready to admit it." With that cryptic statement, she squeezed my arm gently and disappeared into the crowd, leaving me stunned and confused. Was I that transparent, or was Claire simply more observant than I? Given her credit for. I made my way back to the main room, searching for Ethan in the mass of bodies. I spotted him near the makeshift bar, surrounded by teammates and several female admirers. As I watched, one of the girls, a pretty brunette I vaguely recognized from my English class, leaned in close, whispering something in his ear that made him laugh. Jealousy flared, hot and unwelcome. It was irrational. I knew Ethan had given me no reason to doubt his feelings or his fidelity. But watching him charm this girl, watching her touch his arm with casual intimacy while I stood across the room, unable to approach him with the same freedom, it hurt in a way I hadn't anticipated. I was about to turn away to find Marcus and make an excuse to leave, when Ethan looked up and saw me. His smile faltered, something in my expression clearly communicating my distress. He said something to his group and started moving in my direction, his eyes never leaving mine. But before he could reach me, one of his teammates grabbed his shoulder, pulling him into what appeared to be an important conversation. Ethan glanced at me apologetically, holding up one finger in a "wait a minute" gesture. I nodded, trying to hide my disappointment, and moved toward a less crowded area to wait. Minutes passed, and Ethan remained trapped in conversation, occasionally shooting me frustrated looks. Finally, he extricated himself and made his way to my side. "Hey," he said, his voice warm with affection. "I've been trying to get to you all night." "You seemed busy," I replied, unable to keep the edge from my voice. Ethan frowned slightly. "It is a team thing. Coach wants us too." He stopped, noticing my expression. "What is wrong?" I sighed, suddenly tired of the pretense, the hiding, the careful distance. "Nothing, everything. I don't know." He glanced around, then took my elbow, guiding me toward a quieter hallway that led to the back of the house. "Talk to me, Jules. What is going on?" "I ran into Claire," I said, once we were relatively alone. "She knows about us, Ethan, or at least she suspects." His face paled slightly. "What did she say?" "That she knows you are interested in me, that it must be difficult being in love with someone who is still playing straight for the rest of the world." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, his agitation clear. "Shit, Claire as perceptive, but I didn't think," he broke off, looking troubled. "What else did she say?" "That she thinks I am good for you when you are ready to admit it." I studied his face, trying to read his thoughts. "Are you ready to admit it?" He hesitated, and in that pause, I felt a crack form in my heart. "Julian, you know I care about you more than I've ever cared about anyone, but this is complicated." "Stop saying that," I interrupted, frustration boiling over. "Stop hiding behind. It is complicated. It is only as complicated as we make it." "That is easy for you to say," he shot back, a flash of anger in his eyes. Vey had years to come to terms with who you are. I am still trying to figure it out. And I've been patient," I reminded him. "I've given you space, time, understanding. But I can keep being your secret, Ethan. Not when I watch you flirt with girls right in front of me. When I have to pretend we just friends. When I have to stand across the room while everyone else gets to touch you. Talk to you, be near you, without overthinking every interaction." Ethan looked stricken. "I haven't been flirting with anyone. That is not fair." "Maybe not intentionally," I conceded. "But you don't stop it either. Because that would raise questions, wouldn't it? Questions about why Ethan Miller, star quarterback and ladies' man, suddenly isn't interested." "What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice rising slightly. "A public declaration? Should I get on a table and announce to everyone that I am, that He couldn't even finish the sentence. "That you are what, Ethan?" I pressed, anger and hurt making me reckless. "Gay, bisexual, in a relationship with me. You can even say it when it is just us." "Because I don't know," he exclaimed, loud enough that a couple passing by glanced our way curiously. Ethan lowered his voice, stepping closer. "I don't know what label fits me. I just know how I feel about you. And how is that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "How do you feel about me, exactly?" Ethan, his expression softened, the anger draining away. "Like you are the first thing I want to see in the morning, and the last thing I want to see at night. Like you understand parts of me that I didn't even know existed." Like I could talk to you forever and never get bored. The sincerity in his voice made my throat tight. Then, why can't you tell anyone else that? Why am I only worth loving in private? That is not fair, he said again, pain evident in his eyes. You know that is not how I see it. Maybe not, I acknowledged, but it is how it feels. We stood in silence for a moment, the party continuing around us, oblivious to our private drama. Finally, Ethan reached for my hand, but I stepped back, needing distance to think clearly. I need some air, I said, turning toward the back door. I'll see you back at the room later. Julian, wait. But I was already moving, pushing through the crowd toward the exit. Outside, the night air was cold and clear, a shock after the stuffy heat of the party. I took deep breaths, trying to calm the storm of emotions in my chest. I hadn't gone far, just to the edge of the back porch, when I heard the door open behind me. Assuming it was Ethan, I turned with a sigh, ready to ask for more time alone. Instead, I found myself face to face with Tyler, Ethan as fraternity brother and the social chair of Sigma. Hey, Julian, right? He said, his speech slightly slurred. Ethan's roommate. That is me, I replied, trying to hide my disappointment and irritation. Just getting some air. Tyler nodded, leaning against the porch railing beside me. Parties can get overwhelming, especially if you are not used to them. He offered me a cigarette, which I declined. You and Ethan seemed pretty intense in there. Everything okay? I tensed. Just a roommate disagreement, nothing important. Didn't he look like nothing? Tyler observed, lighting a cigarette. Looked pretty heated. It is complicated, I said, echoing Ethan's favorite phrase with bitter irony. Tyler chuckled. With Ethan, it usually is. He took a long drag, exhaling smoke into the cold air. He is a good guy, you know, one of the best. But he has always been worried about what people think of him. I glanced at Tyler, surprised by this insight. You think so? Oh yeah, all that confidence. Part of it is real, but part of it is an act. Tyler tapped ash from his cigarette. His dad was a big deal here back in the day. Legacy student, football star, Sigma legend. Ethan has been trying to live up to that since freshman year. This was a perspective I hadn't considered. Ethan rarely spoke about his family, beyond basic mentions of holidays and occasional phone calls. I didn't know that. Not surprised. Ethan doesn't like to talk about the pressure. Likes to pretend it is all easy. Tyler gave me a sideways look. Whatever is going on between you two. Just remember, he has got a lot riding on who people think he is. Before I could respond, the door burst open again, and Ethan himself appeared, looking slightly frantic. His expression shifted to relief when he saw me. Then, wariness when he noticed Tyler. Jules, he said, ignoring Tyler completely. Can we talk, please? Tyler looked between us, a knowing smile spreading across his face. I'll leave you two to it, he said, crushing his cigarette under his heel. Remember what I said, Julian. As Tyler retreated inside, Ethan approached cautiously. What did he say to you? Nothing important, I replied, echoing my earlier words. Just making conversation. Ethan didn't. He looked convinced, but he let it go. About before. I am sorry, you are right. It is not fair to ask you to be my secret indefinitely. I studied his face, surprised by this concession. What are you saying? He took a deep breath, as if gathering courage. I am saying I don't want to hide anymore. Not if it means losing you. Hope fluttered in my chest, but I tamped it down, wary of false promises. Ethan, I don't want you to come out because you feel forced. That has to be your choice, on your timeline. It is my choice, he insisted, stepping closer. And I am choosing you, us. Before I could respond, the back door opened again, this time revealing a group of partygoers spilling onto the porch, laughing and talking loudly. Among them was the brunette, who had been flirting with Ethan earlier. She spotted him and immediately changed direction, moving toward us with a determined smile. Ethan, there you are, she called, her voice carrying in the night air. We restarting a new game inside. Everyone is looking for you. I tensed, expecting Ethan to make an excuse, to once again prioritize his public persona over our private connection. Instead, he did something that left me speechless. He reached for my hand, placing our fingers together in plain view of the approaching girl and everyone else on the porch. Sorry, Jessica. I am in the middle of something important. Jessica stopped short, her eyes dropping to our joined hands, then rising to Ethan's face with confusion. Oh, I didn't, he realize. I thought that I was available. Ethan finished for her, his voice gentle but firm. I am not. I am with Julian. A hush fell over the porch as everyone processed this declaration. I stood frozen, unable to believe what was happening. Ethan's hand was warm in mine, his grip steady, despite what must have been tremendous anxiety. Jessica blinked rapidly, clearly processing this unexpected development. Oh, well, that is cool. I'll just let everyone know you are busy. She retreated inside, followed by her curious friends, whispers already starting among them. Within minutes, I knew the news would spread throughout the party. Ethan Miller, star quarterback and fraternity vice president, was with a guy, with me. When we were alone again, I turned to Ethan, searching his face. Are you sure about this? There is no going back. His smile was nervous, but genuine. I've never been more sure of anything. I am tired of hiding, Jules. Tired of pretending you are not the most important person in my life. But your team, the fraternity, your family, will have to deal with it, he finished. Some of them might not understand at first. Some of them might never understand. But the ones who matter will come around. And if they don't, he squeezed my hand. Then they don't matter as much as I thought. I wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust that his sudden courage wouldn't evaporate in the cold light of morning. This is a big step, Ethan. The biggest, he agreed. And I am terrified, but not as terrified as I am of losing you. Inside, we could hear the party continuing, the music and laughter, a backdrop to our private moment of truth. Soon, people would be looking for Ethan, curious about the rumor spreading through the house. His new reality would begin, with all its challenges and uncertainties. What happens now? I asked softly. Ethan glanced toward the door, then back at me, his blue eyes clear and determined. Now we go back inside together, and I introduce you properly as my boyfriend. If that is what you want to be. Your boyfriend? I repeated, testing the word. After weeks of secrecy, of careful distance, it felt almost unreal to hear it spoken aloud. I think I'd like that. His smile was radiant, despite the nervousness still evident in his eyes. Then that is what we'll do. He took a deep breath. Ready? I nodded, squeezing his hand. Ready. Together, we turned toward the door, toward the party and all it represented. The end of hiding, the beginning of something new and unknown. As Ethan reached for the handle, I stopped him with a gentle touch. Ethan, I said softly. Thank you for being brave. He looked at me, vulnerability and strength mingling in his expression. You make me brave, Julian Reyes. Then, with a smile that held equal parts terror and joy, he added, "Let Esco introduce my boyfriend to the world."